great honor to be gathered to study the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to study actually the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What a great honor that we gather together, not for anything, not to discuss business, not to talk about money, not to talk about food, not to talk about the worldly entertainments, but we gather for one sake, for the sake of Allah, and to get the Islamic knowledge that will uplift our iman, will enhance our relationship with Allah, will give us better understanding for our Islam, will correct our aqidah, will discipline our morals, and will make us more closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we can add, it will make us more active in our communities. And actually, this is the last lecture that we have for the chapter 47, chapter of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And alhamdulillah, we have, spent almost 6 lectures. This is the 6th one. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had blessed us with some of the points that we understood about the surah. So now, if somebody told you, have you heard of surah of Muhammad in the Quran? Yes. And do you know what is the surah is talking about? Oh, yes, this surah named after the Prophet Muhammad because his name once was mentioned in it, and his name actually was mentioned explicitly 4 times in the Quran. This is one of them. And not only this, the surah is talking about the first battle in the Islamic history, which is the Battle of Badr. It talked also about the rivers of Jannah. It talked about many of the issues. It talked about our understanding and our interacting with the Quran. And today, the last of the topics, how Allah ended this surah. Actually, I will just take the last 3 verses we have recited in the first rak'ah portion of the last portion of Surah Muhammad actually, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how he ended that surah. Allah talked to the Muslims, to those who were around the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then he gave the same message to the entire ummah after them. And Allah talked, now you have heard about the Battle of Badr. And one of the things that happened during the Battle of Badr, that Muslims had nothing at the beginning. So they started to collect some money. You remember they were 314, 317. They have only two horses. They have some camels. They have almost little bit of, arsenal equipments. And that was little. And some of them actually were called to spend for the sake of Allah, to spend, to prepare the military, to spend in many aspects, in other aspects. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminded them, إِنَّمَا الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا. This is the verse number 36. إِنَّمَا الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا لَعِبٌ وَلَهُ. This life is all about entertainment and wasting time. And actually Allah said, but if you believed, if you became conscious of Allah, يُؤْتِكُمْ أُجُورَكُمْ, He will reward you abundantly, immensely. And actually Allah said, وَلَا يَسْأَلْكُمْ أَمْوَالَكُمْ, and He will not ask you for your monies in the hereafter. But in dunya, He will ask you so you can spend, so you can come together as one community. Then Allah said, إِيَسْأَلْكُمُوهَا فَيُحْفِكُمْ تَبْخَلُوا وَيُخْرِجْ أَضْغَانَكُمْ. And some of you, when He was asking you, means the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to spend, some of you got some grudges in the heart. Some people, they might go and spend like $500 for, to invite some people for food in a very expensive restaurant. But when you ask them for $100 for the sake of Allah, that's so heavy. And he starts to count his finger before counting his money, as if you are going to take his soul from his body. And actually, it's easy for him to go for a cruise to spend 3-4 grand and has no problem. Because of what? Because of the reality that Allah had mentioned. The nature of the attachment to this dunya, la'ibun wa lahun, to play games, entertain, and waste time and money. And Allah said, ha antum, this is the last verse. And if I have the right to give a little bit of advice with all respect and love, when the dunya plays with your mind, I remind you to just read the last verse of Surah Muhammad. It's a remedy and it's a reminder from Allah to all of us. Allah said, Ha antum ha'ula'i tud'auna litunfiqu fi sabilillah. Here you are invited to spend for the cause of Allah, for the sake of Allah. فَمِنْكُمْ مَنْ يَبْخَلْ. Some of you will act cheap. Some of you will be greedy. Some of you will be stingy. Some of you will not. They will withhold out of greediness. فَمِنْكُمْ مَنْ يَبْخَلْ. Okay. You decided to be stingy. You decided not to give for the sake of Allah. Okay. وَمَنْ يَبْخَلْ فَإِنَّمَا يَبْخَلُ عَنْ نَفْسِهِ. Whoever acted greedy, he will actually do that against himself. وَاللَّهُ الْغَنِيُّ. And Allah is free of need. He's all rich. Rich in every way possible. Allahul Ghani. Wa antum al-fuqara. And you are the poor in comparison to Allah. So in reality, when you think of it, in reality, in this dunya, we suppose not to have these titles, rich and poor amongst people, because all human beings are poor. Can you tell me why? Simply because you own nothing. So what do you own? And what is the meaning of the real owning? What is the meaning of the essence of you own something? Means it will stay with you forever. You own. You know, the only thing you own is your deeds, is your actions. That's all. Because it's a moment that if you are the most, rich person in our term, or the billionaire, if Allah took your soul, would you ask them to get your Lamborghini with you in your grave? No. Would you keep your credit card in your pocket? No. Shrouds has no pockets. Shrouds has no pockets. And actually, it's a reality. But some of us still holding in this dunya like we are going to live forever. And I said that maybe like the first year that I came to the masjid, that actually if you understood the reality, you will understand that we have a bank account in the hereafter. What is the name of that bank? Jannah Bank. Jannah Bank. So you deposit here and you withdraw there. And it's a reality because there is no currency in the hereafter except from your good deeds. Or you can take from others' bad deeds. So if you oppressed somebody and you want to give him a compensation, you want to pay him for what you have done, you pay him actually from your good deeds. And that's why it's very scary to know that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said one day to the Sahaba, do you know actually who is the bankrupt person? They said, the one who does not have money. He said, no. The real bankrupt person, the one who comes on the day of judgment, and he has huge mountains of good deeds. But he comes and he oppressed this, and he did injustice to somebody, and he backbited somebody, and he stolen the money from this, and he, mocked somebody. On the day of judgment, they will come and they will ask Allah, oh Allah, he did wrong to us. He needs to pay us. So he pays them all till his good deeds finishes. Till his good deed finished. And still, he had lots of people in the line waiting for them. He's waiting for them to get paid. And now he has no good deeds. So they want how to pay them? They will give you from their bad deeds. And how the hadith had ended that, he said he will get all their bad deeds and he will be thrown in the hellfire. He will be taken to the hellfire. He started with millions and millions of good deeds, but he wasted all of them. And that's actually the real bankrupt. So are we rich? No. Can you tell me, how can you call yourself rich while you cannot even raise your arm without Allah's will? How can you call yourself rich while, if Allah willed that you might have a certain disease or something, you can sell all what you have to just give cure or to bring medicine to your body? That's not richness. How come it is richness while I am in 1 second I can leave all of this? So Allah said, some of you, when they are called to spend for the sake of Allah, they act stingy, cheap. They withhold their money. And Allah said, actually, when you do that against yourself. And one of the things that I recently have got from one of the scholars, he said, if Allah had made somebody to invite you to spend for the sake of Allah, do not take it personal. Do not think of it like the Imam told you, brother, we have an orphan, we have somebody, we have an event, we need to expand the masjid, we need to do something, we need to raise some money. The minute that he comes to you, do not think of him as the Imam is asking. No. One of the scholars said, when somebody knocks your door asking for help or sadaqah, think of it as he asked Allah first. And Allah gave him your address. Allah is the one who sent him to you. Because if Allah had hated you, He wouldn't allow you. He wouldn't choose you. It's a choice from Allah. That means you have goodness in your heart. And I know somebody one day invited one of the Imams to his house. And the Imam did not go. And he said, I'm sorry, I cannot come. So the man stayed all the night. crying. And he said to his wife, you know what? I have something haram in my earning. Because if I had pure halal, Allah would send him to me to eat in my house. But that means I have something wrong. I have to fix it. Because the statement is saying, وَلَا يَأْكُلْ طَعَامَكَ إِلَّا تَقِيٌّ. And do not let anyone eat your food except the people of taqwa. So it doesn't matter how big gathering that you have in your invitation in your house. How many of them is close to Allah? How many of them come to the masjid? How many of them pray Fajr at time? How many of them have the consciousness of Allah? That is the measurement. So the ayah is telling us, Wallahu al-ghani wa antum al-fuqara. Allah is free of need. And you are the real poor. Look at the last part. This part, actually, whenever I read it, it shakes my heart. It's a very scary part. The last line in Surah Muhammad. And Allah said, وَإِن تَتَوَلَّوْا. And if you give your backs, means if you denied giving, helping, if you denied supporting this religion, if you denied being in the first row to bear the responsibility, وَإِن تَتَوَلَّوْا يَسْتَبْدِلْ قَوْمًا غَيْرَكُمْ ثُمَّ لَا يَكُونُوا أَمْثَالَكُمْ. He will replace you with other people, will never be like you. Means what? If they called you for something, do not give your back to them. Do not turn your back. Say, Allah had selected me. So you stick out. Give as much as you can. Give even a smile. Give even advice, effort, your muscles. Give time. Give advice, opinion. Share with them the time. Do something. It's not about money. It's not only about money. You can help. You can paint. If you cannot give money, you can carry. You can help in other ways. But do not give your back. وَإِن تَتَوَلَّوْا يَسْتَبْدِلْ قَوْمًا غَيْرَكُمْ. He would replace you with other nations. And they will never be like you. They will not act cheap like you. And actually, it's a warning for all of us. You know, when they ask you, for example, brother, can you come with us? Let's clean the carpet of the masjid. You know, some people would act, oh, you know what? They need me. Without me, they cannot clean the carpet of the masjid. No. You will be the loser if you reject it. Go. Say no, and you go. Do you think that Allah will leave his house without being served? Do you think that Allah will leave his house just waiting for you to come? No, it's an opportunity for you, not for anyone else. If they called you to arrange something, to donate, to serve the house of Allah, don't say, you know what, without me, they cannot do anything. What? We are not in a company. You can say that about business, but do not say that about the religion of Allah. If you are teaching people something, don't say, you know, because, oh, without me, they couldn't get that knowledge. No, you can go. And Allah will bring somebody who is better than you. It's a ni'mah from Allah. And that's why there is a very good dua, 3 words. If I did nothing today except that you memorize this dua and you start from tonight to use it in your sujood. Allahumma ista'milna wala tastabdilna. Oh Allah, use us and do not replace us. Do not replace us. If Allah has chosen you for something, you know, like in the Jumu'ah, there are like 250, 200 people. But the Imam had seen me passing by. He said, Adrian, please, can you come to arrange the books with me? Arrange the Quran copies with me? Oh, Imam is always calling me. I don't know. Imam, I'm busy. I cannot. And you are not busy. You just give fake excuse. So be sure that you denied the ni'mah of Allah that He had given to you. It is khair. It is goodness that Allah had brought to your feet. And you know what? Let me give you another analogy so you can get what I mean exactly. Can you raise your hand and make a dua? What kind of dua? Oh Allah, forgive me. Right? Allah enabled you, right? How many other people Allah had blocked their hearts? He didn't guide them to do this. Right? How many other people? Millions. Allah did not guide them to raise their hands to make a dua for Him. You know why? Because Allah hated to hear their voice. Allah does not want to hear them. So if Allah brought somebody to you, it's a sign that Allah allowed you to give your sadaqah so He would accept it. If He hated you, He wouldn't send him to your house. He wouldn't send him to your door. He wouldn't let him call you. That's why it's a ni'mah, it's a privilege. If Allah had allowed you to work, to support, and to be honest, I wanted you to take that ayah and look at it in a wider angle. Lots of countries, of Muslim countries, Allah had given them Islam, even the Arabic language, and they gave their backs to the religion of Allah. Some of them are custodians, the custodians of the mosques, and they didn't serve well. Now we can see by ourselves, Allah is gradually shifting the religion from one place to another. It's amazing when you see young Muslims, they never spoke Arabic and they never belong to those countries, and they more adherent to Islam than lots of people born as Muslims in a Muslim country. What do you call this? We call it istibdal. Allah is replacing. He gave you ni'mah, you didn't preserve it, you didn't appreciate it. Allah is now selecting other people. It's amazing. I have seen, like 2 days ago, a Muslim who newly reverted to Islam 2 or 3 years ago, and he memorizes half of the Quran, and he now speaks Arabic, read the Quran, and mashallah, his iman, his principles, he's defending Islam in a way that you would never find in some of the Muslim countries. You say, Subhanallah, Allah is bringing the victory to this religion from a generation that we never imagined, like 20, 30, 40 years ago, that we would see them. See the big shift. Allah is bringing more people to be closer to Him, adherent to Islam, than lots of people born as Muslims, and they lived in a Muslim country, and they give their backs to Islam. Allah is replacing them nowadays. That's what yeah. And that's why you nowadays look at Muslims in the United States. Look at Muslims in Canada. Look at Muslims in Australia. Look at Muslims in Italy, in Europe. Look at Muslims now you have territories in Europe, just Muslims. And Islam is spreading so fast. And Allah is replacing. وَإِن تَتَوَلَّوْا. I want you always to remember this part. وَإِن تَتَوَلَّوْا. If you deny it, if you turn it away, يَسْتَبْدِلْ قَوْمًا غَيْرَكُمْ. He's going to replace you with other nation. ثُمَّ. And then لَا يَكُونُوا أَمْثَالَكُمْ. Then they would never act like what you have acted, what you have done. They would never do like you. They would never be stingy. They would never think, without us, this masjid cannot be served. Without us, nobody could help the poor and needy. Without me, there will be homeless. Without me, they will be naked. Without me, they will starve to death. Without me, no, who you are. Show some humility. Show some humbleness. Without you, Allah will send somebody. Do not worry. Do not worry. He will send somebody that he will be better than you. He will act better than you. So take it as an opportunity to get the hasanat. You remember the story of Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu. Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, he is the closest one to Rasulullah, right? And now, Rasulullah, when he passed away, now Abu Bakr as-Siddiq is the Khalifa. Khalifa of Muslims. What is the meaning of Khalifa? You can say governor, higher, right? You can say king, you can say president, and how many people under his ruling? Massive number of Muslims, and the expansion of Islamic lands. And yet, he used to pray Fajr. He's the Khalifa. He used to pray Fajr. And after Fajr, he used to go to a tent of a lady, old lady, who is blind. He used to go clean her place, cook the food, give her the food, look after her, then he used to go. And one day Umar ibn Khattab followed him, radiallahu anhu. And once he left the tent, Umar ibn Khattab entered. And he talked to the lady. And he said, what was that man doing here? She said, I don't know him. She doesn't know that this is the Khalifa at all. She doesn't know this is Abu Bakr. I don't know him. But he used to clean my place. He used to cook for me. He used to feed me. He used to spend on me. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq did that secretly. He doesn't want. And you can imagine cleaning the tent, sitting on her knee, on his knees, mop, clean, doing something, cooking the food. Subhanallah. Those people are the seekers of the hereafter. He didn't say, you know what? I am the Khalifa. I'm not supposed to do this. I already do enough. No, that's not their way of thinking. They take it as an opportunity. You remember the story of Umar ibn Khattab when he became a Khalifa? When he passed by the lady, she has the pot, and the pot over the fire, there is water in the pot. And when he looked at the water, he found what? Stones. Stones. He said, are you cooking stones? It's weird, right? And he found 3 kids are crying. And he said, how come? She said, no, I am pretending that I am cooking to let them wait till they sleep, till they fall asleep. And I have nothing. He said, so why you didn't call Umar? She didn't know that this is Umar, the Khalifa, the president. She said, Allah, Allah fi Umar. I complain Umar to Allah. And that caused like earthquake in his heart. It shocked him. He said, وَمَا أَدْرَى عُمَرْ. What made Umar to know about you? She said something very smart. She said, أَيَلِي أَمْرَنَا وَيَغْفَلُ عَنَّا. Would he put himself in charge and will be heedless for us? He put himself for charge. He has to ask about us. And he said, okay, okay. Then he went to the masjid. And there next to the masjid, the treasury house. And he woke up the servant. And he started to collect the flour, the sugar, all the things to cook the food. When he collected them, he told his servant, put all this stuff over my shoulder. He said, do you mean I carry it for you or I carry it upon you? I put it over your shoulder. And he said, put it over my shoulder. Would you carry my sins on the day of judgment? He considered this as his sin, that he must carry over his shoulder. And actually he went and he started to cook for them by himself. He started to blow, and the smoke goes to his beard, and he cries, and he looks at the kids crying, and he cries more. And his servant said, let's go. Now you need to sleep a little bit before Fajr. He said, Wallahi, la atrukuhum hatta arahum yadhakun kama ataytuhum wa hum yabkun. I swear by Allah, I would never leave them till I see them laugh as I have seen them crying. I want to see them laughing. He cooked for them and he fed them. Then at the end of the time, he came to the lady and he said, can you come tomorrow to the place of the Khalifa? And I would talk to him so he can give you some assistance. The next day she came and she have seen him. She saw him. And everyone is coming, calling him Amirul Mu'mineen. Amirul Mu'mineen, the leader of the Muslims. And she felt shy. She felt embarrassed that she said, Allah, Allah fi Umar. She felt embarrassed. He said, do not worry. Look at that statement. Become tabi'ina madlamatuki. How much do you take? And you forgive me for what I have done for you. How much would you give? How much would you take as money? She said, no, no, no. He said, he insisted. And she gave a number. He paid her in full from his own money. And he called one of the Sahaba. He said, bring the contract. He said, this is the poor Umar is buying the oppression that he did, the injustice that he did with the amount of so and so, and she decided that she forgave me. Can you sign? She signed. Then he went to his family and he said, when I die, put that contract between my flesh, between my skin and my shroud. So when I meet with Allah, I will tell him, here is the contract. She forgave me. Just think about it. Think about those hearts of people. Think about that every time they used to look at as an opportunity, a privilege that we need to invest to please Allah. Jazakumullahu khairan for listening. May Allah accept from all of us. Allahumma ameen. Inshallah, if Allah give us life and time, ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. If Allah give us life and time, we will, inshallah, start new surah, Surah Al-Fath, inshallah, and hopefully we finish it before we go to Umrah, inshallah, Rabbil Alameen. Jazakumullahu khairan. بارك الله لي ولكم في القرآن العظيم ونفعنا وإياكم بما فيه من آيات والذكر الحكيم وصل اللهم وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. جزاكم الله خيرا. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.